Jill, you might want to come this way a little bit more.
It's going to be like church.
Yeah. You don't have to.
I was just saying, I'm just the escort here.
The streaming may be on just to let folks know. The camera's back there, so we may be live. We're going to start at about 5:02. So we'll wait till 1 o'clock to make sure folks are here.
Just open it up for questions.
Yep, I'll introduce you and then questions all face sure.
Yep.
And then we'll have the questions and then
So it's
Okay, yep.
So it's all set.
and for folks here tomorrow.
Great.
No, that's what I was just making sure. You did something.
Okay.
Hey, Billy?
You guys
Can I
need
send you
anything?
that?
I'm sitting around and I think we're good.
Yeah, so the camera's in the back.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's used for everybody.
She had me on right now, so it covers this area. Or whoever wants to stream it, so sure knows that it's organized. So,
That's good.
those that don't know me, I'm Tracy Roy, and I'm the Director of Institutional Research for the colleges of the Northeast Higher Ed District. I primarily work at Itasca Community College, but I represent them all. So Billy Sikala and I are here kind of facilitating this open forum session. And Billy will, as for the folks that are streaming in, if they would like to email any questions that you can email Billy, and it's at b.sikala, S-I-K-K-I-L-A, @wasabiarange.edu. And this should have been in the instructions as well. So the open forum is scheduled to last about 45 minutes. We have time to let Eric Bernard introduce himself. And he's a finalist for the Vice President of Finance and Administration position for the NHED colleges. So with that, I will kind of turn the floor over to Eric.
Okay.
And I'll start with the first question. Eric, could you please tell us about yourself, why you applied, and what makes you uniquely qualified for the Vice President position for our colleges?
Sure. Thank you for that question. Yeah, my name is Eric Bernard. I'm the interviewing here for the VP of Finance position for your institution. A little bit about myself. I've been in higher education for 22 years. I started off at an independent private four-year institution, and then from there moved to a public two-year community college in the state of Michigan. I have served in numerous roles during that time. I started off originally as a staff accountant. From that point forward, I moved into capital construction and projects. I handled about $25 to $27 million worth of new construction and renovations over the period of about 7 years. I've overseen facility maintenance. I've overseen food services. I've overseen residential hall, bookstore, ski hills, any kind of auxiliary service that exists in a higher ed institution. Had some sort of oversight to work with. I've also overseen facility development and facility maintenance. As a director as VP of Finance, I've been able to get accustomed and have great experience working with IT infrastructure, overseeing business office, overseeing, again, auxiliary services, grant management, Perkins grants, federal grants, numerous different qualitative measures from that standpoint. And I've been able to create a lot of great relationships working with students over the years, which is the most important thing. Working with student development on projects, initiatives, campus, strategic plans, things of that nature. So in addition to that, I'll just keep talking here. I've also been able to have the position of Dean of Instruction for a while. I was in that position for about 18 months, which is an excellent opportunity for anyone to be able to see all sides of the fence. Because everything works hand in hand with each other. And it's always great to say that, but until you've been on both sides of the fence, it's a little different conversation because the priorities are all the same, but the way you get to it is much different. So focus is extremely important in being able to listen to all sides of the story and being able to involve all different constituencies on those pieces is very important. Additionally, I've also served twice, once in the past and currently now as interim president, so I've also seen from that standpoint the oversight of all institutional responsibilities, from accreditation to faculty development, contracts, public relations, program strategic development, all of it, board governance, faculty and staff governance, being able to work with all constituencies to try and get to the same end in support and execution of the strategic mission and value and vision for the institution. So at a higher ed level, that's kind of my experience. I've been involved quite a bit over the years and wouldn't take any of it back. Everyone's a learning opportunity every time you step into a new position. So I'm grateful and thankful for that. Interest in this position here. I was very intrigued by this position from the standpoint that it is five separate community colleges. Community college is extremely important to me as an individual and as a career choice because of the opportunities it provides to students, stakeholders, community, and industry. There's a lot of diverse stakeholders in that group, and being able to meet the needs of all of those is very interesting. It creates a lot of opportunities to create those relationships and build a stronger community together, being able to impact the lives of students, which then in turn impact the operations of industry and community development too. It's really a big circle, and I find an extreme amount of self-satisfaction in seeing those things come together, seeing those individuals succeed in their workplace, for themselves, for their families, and for the community. So for me, it's extremely important as a community college focus that I have. But getting back to the 5 community colleges, that creates a lot of opportunity for sharing of ideas, being able to see and work with each individual institution, knowing that they have their own mission, they have their own vision, and they have the priorities and vision of the community in which they work with. And they also have industry support and community support within each institution. That's a lot for one. For 5, it creates a lot of opportunities. And being able to come to work every day and have an interesting agenda, and being able to look at many different colleges, many different opportunities within those, and being able to work with other individuals who have excellent insight, input, and show a great dedication to what they do is just an opportunity I couldn't pass up. It excites me. I think there's great opportunities in Minnesota for this kind of work, for the overarching appeal that we have within this organization, overseeing the 5 community colleges, and to create a stronger, more cohesive group is what I really am looking forward to from that standpoint. So,
Thank you. Does anybody out here have any questions that they would want to start? I do have a couple, but I have to recognize this.
sure.
So these are some questions that were sent in.
Okay.
2-part question. Please talk to the attributes of commitment, dedication, and trust, and how they fit into a leadership role such as a vice president of finance administration.
Okay, I can start with that one.
Okay.
All very important in a leadership role. I believe it was. I just lost it. Head of Apple. What's that?
Steve Jobs.
Jobs. Yes. Sorry. You said you hire leaders to lead people, not for you to tell them what to do. You hire them so they can tell you how to do your job and support you in what you're doing. So, as a leader, you have to build those relationships. You have to give people the resources that they need in order to do their job well, in order to be efficient at their job, and be able to make productive academic and educational strides in what they're doing. So, from a leadership standpoint, you have to have faith in the people. You have to build that responsibility and that relationship with them so that they can trust you and be able to share with you how they feel, how they would like to see things move, and be able to have an unadulterated conversation on without the titles involved in some circumstances. Be able to share ideas. You need to be able to share ideas and be able to have productive conversations. We may not always view the same thing in the same light all the time, but what that does is that just creates more opportunities for engagement and learning. There's always been the greatest things that happen don't happen from uniformity and everybody agreeing on the same thing all the time. It happens from open discussion that creates opportunities to spur from that. Disagreement isn't always such a bad word, but coming together and being able to make sure that you get to the best decision and the best resolution for that can possibly exist within the context of what you're discussing is what's most important. So being able to build those relationships, being able to have the trust of those people, being able to trust those people, and that's a relationship building piece, is very important for me. So, if I were to come into this job, that's one of the main pieces, is just being able to work with people, being able to have them understand me and me understand them before we start moving at any kind of pace. So we understand what our expectations are of each other and how we're going to get together on the same page and build those relationships.
Second part of this question, having said that, a year ago, nearly to the day, you were entrusted by the voters of your community to serve as their leader, their mayor. You have one more year in your obligation to your stakeholders, and now you are contemplating bending your role as mayor of those who entrusted you and look to you as their leader. Please explain how or why we College should trust you will stick with us, the students, the employees of the districts during difficult times and when other opportunities present themselves?
That's an excellent question. Hats off to whoever asked that one, because I put you on the spot. I don't have an issue with that one. I took the term as mayor in my current community because things weren't moving along with transparency. So what I've done since I've been there is created more transparency within the organization. We have four council members that are within that organization currently now. We're all on the same page. We understand where we need to go. There isn't any more one person making a decision. There's input from all levels of government on that, from all constituencies within that. We have a plan to move forward, which didn't exist before. There's respect and trust amongst the four people plus the mayor and myself on that city council, which didn't exist before. And it is true that if I were to take this position, if it was offered to me, that I would be leaving with that. But the other side of that coin is I would be able to leave, because there is transparency, there's cooperative relationships among everyone that is within that organization, and it would not be difficult for somebody to step up and take that position of what I'm leaving, and then find another community member to backfill that. The involvement from the community in the council sessions that we have on a monthly basis has increased, and it's increased not from the standpoint of people coming in to complain about what's going on. It's people coming in to ask, here's the situations that we have, what can we do about it? And the answers are, here's everything that we have on the table and how we're addressing it. If you want to provide more information on that, or if you want to become involved with that, we've opened that up now to public work groups where people are able to get involved with certain aspects of it. A large piece was, we're getting into municipality now, but a large piece of it was stormwater and things of that nature. It's a small community, it's aging. Everything was built in the 1900s. And when people built things back in the 1900s, they were built to last. But the bad side about that is then people walked away and nobody maintained anything. So there was never that aspect there. So now everything is on its downward slide of failing, and a lot of communities are just have to reinvest in those things. So people have a lot of questions on, why is this not working? Why is that not working? When is this going to be replaced? And with a small community, you need to make sure that everyone's on the same page of, here are the resources that we have, and what is the best approach we want to take to that. So is it that we want to start taking a look at redoing our stormwater systems to make things flow a lot easier, so we're not backing things up into people's basements? Do we want to take a look at our fresh water systems that we can turn around and sell to other communities that we're looking at? Do we want to take a look at our recreational standpoint and try and sink some money into that to bring things forward? Fee-for-service boat launches, fishing guide services, things of that nature that we're all having discussions about. But nobody was having those discussions before because everyone was in the mentality that we're shrinking, there's nothing we can do about it, and this is just going to be the end of our community. Which, half of them, I just say that wasn't just my fault. That also included the rest of the council members there. We've turned that around, and it's more of an open discussion now, more people are involved. And whether I were to stay or to leave, I can say if I was to stay, that would continue to grow, and if I were to leave, I still believe 100% that there's enough people vetted and involved in that process that it will still continue to flourish, and we're on a different path than we were 12 months ago.
Another one. Transparency and integrity is of utmost importance during times of change and in a leadership role such as the Vice President of Finance and Administration. Gogabeck's college president stepped down mid-year 2018. There are 3 deans at the college: a dean of business services, a dean of instruction, and a dean of student services. Your introduction to our campus community reads, you currently serve as the interim president of Gogabeck College. Please describe the selection process in your becoming the interim president, or were all 3 deans simply named co-interims?
Sure. Under the state of Michigan, the institution can only have one leader. So there's one person that has to deal with the state, there's one person that has to deal with the Higher Learning Commission, there's one person that has to take the responsibility for dealing with all constituency groups. So what we've done in the past and what we did at this point in time is there is a presidential committee and that includes the 3 deans. So any decisions that we make at that point in time are made in unison with all 3 of us. So we'll come to the table, talk about what direction we want to go to, we'll work that out, we'll come to a main consensus, but yet as the leader or the spokesperson for the college, then that is the role that I was given by the Board of Trustees as the interim president. There is a committee that compromises or composes the decisions that are made from that presidency, but there still is one individual that has to lead that group and has to be the one that works with the state legislatures, the HLC and everyone else. So that's how that formulation came to par and how we've operated.
You have been in your role as Dean of Business Services at College-Hibbing,
That's right. Yep.
since 2005. A new president was recently appointed. It appeared as though there were 4 finalists for the position. Were you named one of the 4 finalists? The second part of this, how did this affect your decision to apply for the position of Vice President of Finance and Administration for the Northeast Higher Education District?
Sure. No, there was 4 finalists that came from outside the organization, so I wasn't involved with that. So it had no bearing on this search whatsoever. I was looking to do a career position movement, so that's why I was looking at the position as it was open here. You know, one of the toughest things, and I don't, until you've done it, I guess it's difficult to say. One of the toughest things to try and do is try and get a leadership role in an institution where you've served for a long time. So until you've done it, it's really a daunting thing because when someone comes, it's always the expert rule. I don't know if you've ever gone out and you hire a consultant that lives 50 miles away because they're an expert. When you have people that are at your institution doing the same thing to somebody 50 miles away in a different direction. So that's why I didn't get involved with that search. It's just a lot of things that, you know, I feel I know where to spend political capital, and that was not something for me to spend political capital on.
Please describe your overall career aspirations. Do they include being a college or university president, pursuit of your doctoral degree, your assumption of executive roles such as mayor or potential departure from GCC coinciding with the naming of a new college president seemingly indicates that you have aspirations beyond the very demanding role of Vice President of Finance and Administration for the Northeast Higher Education District. In good faith, how can you demonstrate you will be committed to NHED, even when that may mean foregoing a presidential opportunity? Please explain more generally how you balance commitment to an organization versus your personal aspirations.
Sure. Another excellent question. I appreciate that you guys get right to the point. You know, with that, my career aspirations are to be in a position which I'm positively engaged in and able to make a difference in. Whether that is a Dean of Finance or whether it's a VP of Finance, whether it would be a president in the future, whatever it is it's going to be, that's where my focus is going to be spent on. As long as I'm happy doing what I'm doing, I know I'm making a positive impact, it's good for me, it's good for my family, and the people around me are happy with where I'm going and where we're going as a group. That's a major, most important piece of that. As far as dedication goes, you know, with the exception of the City of Montreal piece that was brought up prior, I do have to say, you know, I was dedicated where I was at Northland when I was there for 7 years. I've been at College-Hibbing for 14 years. I'm not a big fan of jumping ship because you never get anything accomplished. If you're somewhere for a year, you're never really going to get anything accomplished if you really had a goal intended for that. You know, there's a lot of research and data out there that says you really don't get anything done until you've been in a position for at least 10 years. Good, bad, or indifferent. There's a lot to support that, whether it's mostly that deals with leadership roles because it takes a while to build the trust, it takes a while to build momentum, and depending on changeover, you're always rebuilding that. So you need that time, and you need that to give yourself that time, and that institution needs to give you time to create some positive movement forward. Can you do a certain that? Absolutely. Nothing's not possible. But everything takes time. Everything takes time in order to move forward. If we could solve all the world's problems in a short time, somebody would have done it already, and we wouldn't have any problems. So, you know, I do have quite a bit of commitment just from my past. I'm not one to start something and walk away and leave, especially if it hasn't gotten to a point where it's self-sustaining. So that's extremely important to me. Otherwise, what was the purpose of taking the position in the first place? Why would I spend all my time and energy and look at uprooting my life, you know, family's life, things of that nature, for something that I'm not vetted in? It just, I mean, things have to make sense, and for me, that's just not good common sense. And if I'm going to get involved with something, there's a reason I want to get involved with it. I want to create a positive change. I want to be able to be involved with growth. I want to be able to be involved with innovation. I want to be able to be involved with seeing people, students, educational aspects move forward. So that's kind of my aspiration as an individual, and why I've done what I've done, and what I would do in the future. And I would guarantee commitment that I would be here to see this thing through and be able to put my time and make a positive difference.
Could you please explain how you would go about budgeting for an organization with 5 separate and different colleges that are all funded from one central pool of money?
Sure. A lot of that gets down to the vision and the mission of the college in itself. Every college has its own mission and vision. They have a focus, a lot of niche programs, things of that nature. So you want to make sure that you are staying true to the mission of the institution. If you divert from the mission of the institution, whether it's through resource allocation or whatever, you're doing a huge disservice. That is going to be the undoing of something in the end, and that's not the intent from anyone's aspect that I've gathered, and it's surely not from mine. We want to make sure that we fulfill that educational mission. We want to make sure we fulfill the institution's goals and vision, and so we have to supply resources there. On the other hand, when we're starting to look at resource allocation with that, I guess we really talk about resource allocation when there isn't enough resources. So when there's abundant resources, nobody really cares about resource allocation because it just goes wherever it's needed. So you want to make sure, and what I've always done in the past, is you need to protect the core. And once you protect the core, then you can start moving outwards from that. So we want to make sure that we have that instructional core in place. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students in the organization and our stakeholders, the industry that needs us and supports us. And then we have to take a look at other aspects of assessment. You know, what is our assessment process in there? Are the programs functioning the way they need to function? Is it on a downward slide? Is it need an uptick in resources in order to be more successful? There's a lot of different variables that will come into mix and come into play as we're talking about specific cost centers or organizational components and units within each institutional budget framework. Is there a secret formula to it? I don't have a secret formula. I guess every institution has its own opportunities and challenges, and you have to deal with that institutional leader of that organization, and then try and come to the best resource mix you possibly can in order to serve all of those things. So it's really more of an intent-based discussion that we have. It always gets down to the results, obviously, but the intent has to be that we're going to support the institution, the mission and the vision of where they're at, and then we allocate resources based on how those all come into play. And it is more difficult when you have one funding stream and you're dividing it over 5. But somebody's been doing something right over the last how many years here, because everyone still has resources that they need to do their jobs. So this isn't something where you come in and reinvent the wheel. We follow the processes that we've followed in the past, and then we look at how we can best tune those processes to make sure that we can provide resources where they're really needed and where they're going to do the most good. Got pages?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Loganbeck's college's overall student enrollment is reported as total head count of 1,099, with 647 of those being full-time and 452 being part-time. Fall of 17 to fall of 18, overall retention was reported 44%. This was down from the previous year of of 57%. Please describe to us what you know about NHED's enrollment and what do you see your role as the Vice President of Finance and Administration in addressing these kinds of challenges.
Sure. From what I understand from NHED's enrollment, obviously it's a declining enrollment situation, but that is not uncommon amongst any higher ed organization at this point in time. From what I know, the high school graduation rates are supposed to drop all the way until 2025 before we'll see an uptick again, and that's 2025 is a long way out, so we have a way to, it's going to be a lot of rough sledding until 2025. What we've done and what I've tried to focus at our current institution now is not only trying to increase the retention, because it's much easier to keep a student than it is to bring in a new student, but we're always trying to bring in new students. But with the way the economy is at, you have employers that have a low unemployment rate, so you can't hypothesize that the employers are full because they're not. They still need more employees, and the employers are coming to us saying, we need new employees, and I'm going back to the institution, or the employers have been saying, I need students to help you out. So it's a two-way street there. But while the students may not be coming in, the employers do have more employees now than they had before. And what I'm trying to focus on with them is the workforce development side of the credit load. Whether it's credit load or if it's non-credit load is really irrelevant at this point in time. So how else can we garner enrollment and increase certificates, increase completion rates, technical diplomas, whatever it is that we can do? We need to be able to be nimble. We need to be able to look at different opportunities for revenue generation, degree attainment, and also certificate attainment. So these are some of the things that I'm trying to look at in my current institution, where I would also look at here too, is there's more than one way to get to the numbers that we need to get to, and we need to look at every source of revenue generation that we possibly can, whether it's non-traditional students, whether it's traditional students, and to be able to work a little bit deeper into that, along with looking at high schools and looking more at pathway education for some of these students that are in high schools. Over the years, I've come to the terms that there's a lot of the helicoptering parents and all those things have changed over the years, and you know, there was a huge push for everything's 4-year, everything's 4-year, and we still have some of those issues in the high schools now. But some of the things that are not in there is I've seen a huge decrease in career counselors in high schools too, because they can't afford to fund those positions. So students are doing a lot of work on their own trying to find out where they're going to be. And I think that's a disservice to us to not help provide some of that. So what are the opportunities that we can provide for pathway education and career education when we step all the way into 8th grade and work our way all the way up? Because they're not seeing a lot of these different jobs that are out there. And some of the places is, you know, we still are trying to educate students for jobs that don't exist. So we want to talk about IT and some other things. There's a lot of opportunities that we can provide for IT education where I couldn't even tell them where they're going to be working in 5 years because those jobs aren't even created yet. So the more impact that we can have with some of those high school students to give them that pathway to understand that there is a career in some of these things, and there is a sustaining career. It's not a low-paying career. It's not a low-paying job. We're talking about a family-supporting, livable wage kind of thing, where students can make a positive impact to themselves and their families. So those are some of the pieces that I would look at and what we can do for this area up here, and looking at different opportunities for instructional degree attainment or revenue generation through whether it's workforce development certificates, opportunities, and things like that.
Yep, okay. We currently have a hands-on finance person in this position. Are you a manager with this type of work pattern? What is your management style?
Sure. Yes and yes. Smaller educational institutions, you could say, you know, the old cliche, you wear many hats, and I do. You know, you wear the finance hat, you wear the workforce development hat, you wear the grants management hat, you wear just a numerous amount of things, working with every auxiliary enterprise on budget development and revenue generation and all these different things. And I guess those are the parts of your job that I do enjoy, because you're out working with individuals on how to make a better work situation, a better revenue model, a better working atmosphere, a better service to students, things of that nature. So I do have a lot of involvement at a hands-on level with all these different organizations because we have to. We don't have, I currently have not been in an institution where there's been a plethora of individuals where the duties can be assigned amongst numerous people instead of very few. So you live by necessity, and it's always been where I've been at this point in time. As far as my management style, you know, there's lots of terms that you go out there. Servant leadership is one that I've always kind of followed with because I've been able to have many different experiences in my career. It's allowed me the opportunity to understand what I'm asking of somebody before I ask them to do it. So that's important to me because I think it's unfair and almost unethical to a point to demand something from somebody else that you don't either fully understand what it is or you don't know what resources it would take to complete that. So the empathy side of that, the personal relationship side of that, I have a hard time with. So I do feel I'm more of a servant leadership style because I've done a lot of those things, and if I haven't, then I'll invest the time and the effort to understand where they're coming from, what that position takes, and what those duties take in order to accomplish what they need to accomplish. So I'm just as involved as they are in coming to the resolution for that, whatever I'm asking for.
I have a little bit of a follow-up question from your response earlier.
Okay.
You said it takes 10 years to build relationships and move forward. How are you going to hit the ground running?
Sure. You know, the best way to do that is to get out. Get out and talk with people, make yourself available. Again, that's that whole relationship building piece of it. I believe everyone has ideas on how things operate, but that doesn't mean that's how it actually works in the atmosphere that you're in. You need to take that time to make sure that you're cognizant of where people are coming from, how things operate, because you do have 5 different institutions, and those 5 different institutions are not always on the same page. And not to take that out of context, but everyone has their culture within their organization, so you need to figure out what that culture is in order to be effective and to have any kind of trust or garner responsibility within that. So the best way to hit the ground running is to make sure that I'm there for those individuals, I create relationships for them, and I understand what they have to deal with and learn how I support them and how I can give them what they need in order to make sure that their job is running the best that it can and the needs of the institution, the students, and the commission. So.
Colleges of the NHED district are anticipating organizational changes in support and instructional services. What is your experience in restructuring and leading employees through change?
Consistent. Leadership change is always going on. The institution that I started at Northland is not the same as when I left Northland. When I started at College-Hibbing, it's nowhere near what it is like it is now. Change is always necessary, and we need to go into it fully aware of what's being asked and what we're hoping to achieve with it. And you can take a look at instruction. 10 years ago, I could guarantee you there wouldn't be a faculty member that would say that they would be willing to teach a class on ground, online, and ITV at the same time in order to make load. Things change. How do we do that? We do that cooperatively. We provide training. We provide evidence on how it supports student success and how it supports faculty loads, how it supports retention, how it's able to market to students, things of that nature. So leadership change is, you know, there's probably a million books on leadership change, and everyone has their own take on how it should be done. But the biggest piece of it is transparency, and you can start with the end in mind. You know where you want to go, and then you start gathering input as to how we get there, because it's a buy-in piece. People have to believe in what we're doing. You have to believe in the direction that you're going. But those people are also very talented in what they're doing because we hired them to do a job. Again, back to the whole pieces. I didn't hire them to tell them what to do. I hired them to tell me what they need from me so they can do their job. So it's important to keep them included in that because they're going to be the ones that are going to answer the questions that they have in the end in order to get to where we need to go. So that's kind of what I.
Could you tell us about your experience with facilities projects and or capital projects?
Sure. In my tenure, I've designed, built $15 million science building, $7 million campus center. I a $5 million environmental living and learning residence hall, renovations of exterior applications of landscaping. I built a new residence hall at College-Hibbing Community College. We've renovated an auto shop. This is an interesting project. We had an auto shop that took 2 floors. It's 2 stories high. And you have an auto program in there that takes over 7,000 square feet, but 7,000 square feet is only used in the first 10 feet from the floor up. We needed additional instructional space, and we needed additional space for conference and group meetings. So we took a look at that, and the idea that we came up with was building a building inside of a building. So we were able to put, if you want to call it better, lack of the term, exoskeleton or a structural facility inside of our current building. We built the 2nd floor over our auto shop, and we got another, I think it was 6,000 square feet in space that we were already heating, we were already lighting, and we already had underneath our umbrella. So we gapped that 6,000 square feet in a relatively incremental cost, if any, to our fixed asset cost or our utility cost, and that was a great project from that standpoint. Building right now is a $2 million skilled trade center that we just got grant funding for. So I've done a lot. Some of those were state grants. There is a lot of paperwork involved with that. There's a lot of compliance. I've had federal grants for updates and renovations, new roofs, new elevators, things of that nature. Again, a lot of compliance with the federal grants also. So I've been involved with capital constructions from development to design to oversight, construction management, to building to capital closeout to bonding as well. So I'm very familiar and very comfortable with anything that comes to capital construction.
Rogovics Community Colleges 2018-19 overall operating budget as presented is $11.6 million. And its revenue is projected at $11.5 million. So what about about a $100,000 projected deficit?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Please share with the group your understanding of Minnesota State's fund balance requirements and how you've approached taking the necessary measures towards meeting targeted budgetary fund balance requirements.
Correct. The state of Michigan is a little bit different than Minnesota. In Minnesota, the balanced budgets. The way that we dealt with where we were at with the community college in Michigan, we had built our fund balance. When I first started there, we had I want to say about $150,000 fund balance for the institution, and that was with a $9 million operating budget. So we barely had a week's worth of reserves to operate on. We were able to raise that up to the $1 million level that we are now, but we also knew that we were going to be coming into a couple of years where we're going to be heavier on expenditures and revenues. And basically, a large chunk of that is a lot of our faculty were all hired in the 80s and early 90s, so now they're all retiring at the same time. They retired at the same time. Back in the 80s, retirement packages were cheap, so everything was built into faculty contracts. When I came in 2005, I negotiated a lot of those pieces out, but the tenure hasn't changed, so that those people are all retiring now. So we're looking at anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 severance packages for all of the individuals that are retiring. So a lot of these are one-time costs that you're seeing. There's about $175,000 in one-time costs this current year that we're in. That won't happen again next year. So that's why our expenditures are greater than our revenues this year, because we anticipated that they would be based on the retirements coming in. The bonus side of that is they are a one-time fixed cost that's going to disappear after the 1 year. We extend those funds out, and it's all taken care of from that standpoint. So we've tried to build some reserves to take into account for that, because we knew that those retirements were coming, and we knew that those one-time retirement costs were going to have to be realized in those years. So that's why we built up the fund balance that we have.
There has been a recent realignment in the NHED business services model. Please share with us your understanding of where that is at, and more importantly, Your vision for a model that is both sustainable for the employees, sustainable for the organization, and serves the students of our multi-campus structure.
Okay. What I know is that it's a shared services piece where we're looking at purchasing, accounts receivable, revenue collections, all being handled by essential service, which oversees the 5 institutions. I am a support of that. I think that's an excellent use of effective operations to be able to handle that, because as enrollments decline, all of those things aren't needed on every campus. There needs to be a presence on every campus, but there doesn't need to be full positions on every campus, because a lot of it can be absorbed in better efficiency with smaller numbers in a central location. Where do I see that going in the future? If we can stabilize enrollments and continue where we're at, that's going to be a strong piece. If we flex up and down, it's still going to be the right place to be, because we're going to be able to be most efficient with that. The main piece is that we need to have excellent service to students, especially with accounts receivable, billing, things of that nature. We need to make sure that we are providing all the information that they need to have in a timely fashion, whether it's online invoicing, online statements, online registrations, things of that nature, so that they have all the information that they currently have. Staff and faculty is another piece, mostly related to probably human resources, that they have all the information that they currently need. And it needs to be accessible and easily accessible in an understandable format. And the best way to achieve that, still in my opinion, and it's why I believe in this organization, is to have it centrally located so everyone is getting the same piece of information. And we don't have 5 separate organizations trying to filter information and be on the same page, because that just creates redundancy and it creates confusion. If people are moving from organization to organization, or if they're moving in one organization instead of another, the central location of it creates efficiency, it creates clarity, and it's just a much easier organization to run and provide better service to students, staff, and faculty.
This is a question that came in prior to the session here. How would you provide budget guidance and support for technical programming?
Sure. Experience would be one. Dealing with technical programming in the past. A lot of technical programming has a lot of specialty costs. There's a lot of different areas of expenditures based on the technicality of the program, whether it's a welding program, whether it's a CDL program, or an electrical program, whatever it is. There's a reason they're called skilled trades and specialized trades, because they are very independent, very specialized. So that's direct one-on-one working with that instructor, working with that division, working with that dean from that area, to find out what the needs are for that organization. A lot of specialized programs or trade programs have a lot of accreditation, third-party accreditation costs. They have a lot of specialty tools and things of that nature that all need to be accounted for. So getting to the basis of what is a need and what is a want of that organization is kind of a fine line, fine dance that we need to go under. But it's extremely important to make sure that they have the resources that they need to be successful. Because not only do they have the students to account to, they have the Higher Learning Commission, the third-party organization, and industry, which is just as important as anyone else, because a lot of trades programs are run off advisory committees that trades instructor reports to that advisory committee, and we need to meet the needs of our current employers to keep that program up, running, and really relevant in the community, which is being utilized. So communication is a big one from that one. You really do have to have a one-on-one, good conversations to understand what that program needs, what the industry needs, and what the community needs from that, and developing a budgeting scenario based on what is necessary in order to make a profit, or make it worth what the industry is expecting of the program to be.
Could you tell us what you feel the challenges you would encounter coming into this position?
Sure. Challenges is, I don't know if I use the word challenges much, but opportunities. Number one, I've been pretty upfront is coming into a state-run system. I would need to get quite a bit more education and educate myself on the particulars and the specifications of the state-run system and how all those fashions of government and wheels work. to make sure that I'm on the same page with every other administrator, that I'm not giving out any information that is not relevant or cognitively specific to that organization. So that's something that I really need to work on as if I was moving to that position, is to really get a good in-depth knowledge of the state of Michigan, our state of Minnesota, state of Minnesota system. State of Michigan, I know it's separate, and we're 28 independent, so we do our own thing, and we work together on certain aspects, but it's much different than having a state-run system. But each community college here is independent, and they have their own mission and vision, which is very relative to where I'm at. So I need to understand and get to know every single community college that I work with, to understand where they want to go and what they need to get there, and what my role is in that, and how I support them, and how we work together to make sure that those pieces get met, and their institution thrives as it is with their community and with their industries.
And because of the time, I'm going to do the last question on here. Why the Iron Range? What are your ties, and what do you know about the area?
Sure. I grew up in Superior, Wisconsin, which obviously, is right next to me. So I was in Minnesota a large portion of my life, back and forth. I've been up here. I've had many family vacations, trips, fishing expeditions, things of that nature in Upper Minnesota. Been, Brainerd, been all over the upper Minnesota. So I'm very familiar with the area, and it's not, geographically, it's not that much different than northern Wisconsin, UP of Michigan, things of that nature. It's rural communities, which are heavily invested within themselves. They're very proud cultures. They're very self-sustaining. So from that standpoint, that's what I'm used to. I'm engaged in that kind of community involvement, that type of commitment. I've been around it. It's really nothing new. I didn't grow up in Upper Minnesota in the Iron Range area, but being involved again in Michigan with the mining and industry and things of that nature, it's all relative to a point. No one is exactly shares one thing that another person doesn't exist, or another company or organization doesn't exist somewhere else. But everyone has their particular specialties and their cultures within it, and I feel comfortable in this area, in this arena, in rural America and rural northern America. So Minnesota to me is just as much as home as northern Wisconsin or northern Michigan. So.
We're a couple minutes past time. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the group at this point?
As far as a group, I just want to thank you for the questions. The questions were, like I said, bold and right to the point, and I'd rather get right to the point than to dance around issues, so I appreciate that. If there's anything that anybody else has, I'd be more than willing to take a few minutes, but I just thank you for your time and your opportunity, and to those that weren't here today too, and thank them for their time and opportunity and the questions that they had. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
With that, the streaming's going to end, and it will resume in probably about 8 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's good to see you.
And now you guys going on
Tour.
tours.
Well, that's even better.
I know, now you'll even know more.
Mhm.
So, awesome.
All right.
Later.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Nice to see you too.
Yeah,
Thanks
nice,
again.
yeah, nice to meet you.
this area is covered, and we're actually live streaming right now. They don't have the volume, but, so you, like, again, this is, we sit right here and.
Okay.
And so listen as well. So,
Yes.
It's very,
Yeah, it is a
very
little warm in here.
Sit down, do a little now.
Yes, you should.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
That sounded like regret, didn't it?
Yeah. You should.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
that's
I
just
would
how
not
it is.
listen.
And well, and then I stuff that either I normally sometimes we would get for the summer, so.
Well,
Yeah.
So.
how many was 7 somewhere in that room?
Summer work.
Yeah.
The two
Yeah, I'm trying
on the
to
far right
find as
left,
much as
I couldn't see it,
can
just hearing their
because
voices.
extra help,
That would've
hopefully with the
been-
new.
Was it?
assistant.
Okay, we're on the far left.
Hopefully she's
My
gonna
far
be
left.
able to handle well with some time and then.
Sean was on the far
I
right.
was behind Sean.
Yeah, definitely.
Debbie
was next to
I'm gonna take 12.
library tax.
Start
Yeah,
again.
okay, so then I could see just
Am I doing it
one on the
today?
far left,
Okay.
unless they leave it.
No one's.
Yeah, correspondence.
So I feel like-
Graduation will be over.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is at 2 o'clock.
We'll see when he makes it, it's up to him.
All right, we're gonna start. Other folks come in. The doors are still open?
Yes, the
Yeah,
doors
they
are
can.
open.
Okay. All right, for those of you streaming, it's 2 o'clock, so we're starting this session. My name is Tracy Roy. I'm the Director of Institutional Research for the Northeast Higher Ed District, and I work primarily at Itasca Community College, but I represent all of the colleges. Billy Sikala is here, so if you have questions throughout the session and you want to email Billy, please do so.
Camera's right up there.
Yep.
And it's b.sikala, Sikkila, @wasabirange.edu, and she'll field the questions for you. So today we are here with Brad Bridges, and he is one of our finalists for the Vice President position. He is currently serving as the Director of Financial Management and Auxiliary Services at the University of Iowa. So with our first, I'm going to pose the first question to him. It'll give a time for him to introduce himself. And I have some other questions to ask, and he can share some other experiences that he has as we go through. So, Brad, could you please tell us about yourself, why you applied, and what makes you uniquely qualified for the Vice President position at our colleges?
Okay, so I went through, decided to start a job search, and I decided what do I want to look at in the future. I want to expand on budget, I want to expand on financial management. And then I decided what sort of institution do I want to look at. I have included research universities in some of what I'm looking at, but this particular district appealed to me because I have an experience working in a 5-campus district. I feel like I should be looking at people here, not up there.
Yeah.
You answered
It's
the
our
question. So, the appeal of working in a 5-campus district is we have 5, and in my experiences, we have 5 specifically named unique campuses, unique experiences, with going through pains of trying to become one cohesive campus. And this is my experience in Kansas City. Now, some of that is happening here, and I have experience working through some of those shared services options, and that's kind of, well, that really is why I applied to this, because I really hadn't thought that working through the finance area of community college was in my future. But when I see that by balancing that identity differences on 5 campuses, it appeals to me. I have to deal with that. A lot of personalities you got to deal with, a lot of concern on behalf of people being swept into some of these shared services, and how does that impact their jobs and their workload and things like that. So, take that question.
Okay.
I assume people can hear me.
Yes. Why you applied, what makes you uniquely qualified for the position, and a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I've worked in higher education since I was 16 years old. I started working at a campus bookstore, stuffing books in a bag. And I just have
not left auxiliary services since then. So all through, up until my time working at the University of Illinois, I worked as different levels in cold store management to retail director for the university. And then when I left Illinois, I moved to Kansas City to become the first auxiliary services director at Metropolitan Community Colleges of Kansas City. And that was that unique experience where there were five campuses being integrated into one for cost savings, declining funds. The way funding happens in Missouri is very different than here, and it's all voter-based tax districts. So the voters in a township decide whether they want to be taxed with a community college. And so those, anyway, long story short, those revenues were dropping. State revenues were disappearing, not just, they were disappearing. And how do we balance that with the elected board of trustees freezing our tuition? So bringing in shared services where some of the business transactions, human resources, IT is all centrally sourced.
So I have a list of questions. Billy may come up with more questions if they're emailed in, and then other people that are here as well. So, but I'll start until I'm interrupted or others come up. Colleges of the Northeast Higher Ed District are anticipating organizational changes in support and instructional services. What is your experience in restructuring and leading employees through change?
I'll draw on my University of Iowa experience. We recently went through a board of regents mandated reorganization as far as all of our human resource, purchasing, business transactions, and information technology. And there are no longer departmental responsibilities in that area. It's all shared services, and then the departments get billed back from shared services based on the usage. So that program came up right as I came on at Iowa, and we started out meeting with leaders, campus leaders, as well as bargaining unit leaders, saying this is an idea that we'd like to float. State funding is not increasing. The Board of Regents isn't allowing us to increase tuition. Fees may only modestly increase. How are we going to save money or get new revenue? And we believe we can save money over the long run by doing shared services. And so the shared services, all the transactional things that were done by perhaps a campus admin that would spend 20% of their time or 30% of their time doing all these transactional things, whether it's human resource or reconciling P cards, was all brought centrally to a central human resource, business transactions, which is called shared services, human resources, and information technology. And so once we got everybody to mostly agree on board, or at least agree with the principle, we did work with the bargaining units to promise no jobs are going to be lost. We will save jobs through attrition. I'm not going to deny that, but no one's going to lose their job over this integration. We started the process and started out with self-identification. So I would identify myself as spending 10% of my time on human resource transactions, maybe 10% on reconciling P cards, and 80% is what I thought I came here to do. And then everybody that was involved, identified as doing some sort of transactions, self-evaluated. And then next step was the supervisor of these individuals were evaluated separately on what they believed that their subordinates were doing. So my supervisor may have said, well, he's spending 50% of his time doing these transactions. And so they tried to balance. I'm spending maybe 30% of my time on these type of transactions. So I now have 30% of my time to do something else. These things are gone. It's going to be being taken care of by somebody in central services. And somebody in central services that now is doing transactions all their time loses some of their work that we're doing. So maybe some of those admin work that was that extra 80% that I said I was doing now comes to a different person, has to be cut up, and someone else has to do those administrative functions. that's how we approach that there. There were 39 people that were swept into this central services organization. All but one volunteered to do it. One of them was told that they needed to do it. That's kind of where we are now. And that's only the central service, shared services piece. The same piece happened with human resources. That's all centralized now. I should say the transactional piece of human resources, the onboarding and payroll and such. And then IT, we no longer have departmental IT experts or employees. Anybody that's IT is now part of information technology services, and we have web support. All support is taken care of by them. And when I go to work and my computer would not work properly, like as I did something to it, call them, and they would come and repair it. But if she was sick, nothing happens. Well, now there's backup. So if you call, she's sick, someone else comes and fixes the computer. And that was not happening before. So we are getting much better service from IT in that aspect. Bills are getting paid within 30 days rather than 90 days with the shared service. P cards are getting reconciled much quicker. It's not to our goal yet. We want it all within 30 days, and sometimes it goes to 90 days, but they're getting reconciled before the end of the year. In some cases, they weren't getting reconciled until the end of the year prior to shared services. And that really has to do with the approver, not the shared services, the person who reconciles things. So it's kind of my experience that I answer that.
So it increased the efficiency of the
Oh,
service.
yes. So the whole just, did we save money? No. First 2 years we didn't save money, but we were more efficient. And now that people are starting to retire through attrition within the shared service units, we are indeed saving money. It was now someone that thought that 2,100 transactions a year was not something they were capable of, is now doing 2,400 transactions a year. And someone retires and it's not that big a deal. Doesn't create overflow. Yeah. And every one of those employees is part of is an FC member.
You mean the 39 people in the shared services
Yes.
positions?
Yes.
Okay, we have a couple pages of questions that were submitted from folks at the colleges. So I will start here. Transparency and integrity is of utmost importance during times of change and in a leadership role such as the Vice President of Finance and Administration. Your introduction to our campus community reads, currently serve as Director of Financial Management and Auxiliary Services at the University of Iowa in Iowa City. The university's more than 10 organizational charts provided in the university's operations manual is where this role is listed. Your role with name are, however, listed in the university's directory, identifying your role as Director of Financial Management and Auxiliary Services for the Iowa Memorial Union, which we understand to effectively be the university's student union. Is that a more accurate description of your role at the university?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that auxiliary services. There's only one position of auxiliary services, and it falls under student life and the Dean of Students Office, and it's all housed in Iowa Memorial Union.
Okay. In your role at the student union, have you ever been responsible for assessing the priorities of academic programs, financial reporting, audits, and grants? Please talk about each.
Not academic priorities. I've not been involved in that. With one minor exception, it's not worth mentioning. Audits, I'm for the Iowa Memorial Union Dean of Students Office, the primary person that ensures that the audit compliance is met. So if there is an audit and there are audit findings, the director or the manager goes through that audit themselves, but I'm copied on everything, and I have to make sure that that audit is moving forward so that it doesn't go to the board, regents, without showing progress. Ultimately, that department is responsible for successful completion of the audit, but it does appear on our student life agenda with the Board of Regents. There's more.
There's academic programs, great.
Financial
reporting.
So financial reporting, yeah, I do the budgeting and the financial reporting, and actually there's an associate director of financial reporting that actually generates all the reporting, and then I meet with each department within that reporting quarterly to go over any sort of variance between budget or variance between previous year. That seems unusual, and it might be a percentage unusual or a dollar amount.
Grants.
No, I don't have experience. Very minor grants, less than $1,500, which would cost about $500 to report on the grant. They're pretty minor.
Prior to the time you were a director of auxiliary services at Metropolitan Community College in Kansas City, Missouri, and an associate director of retail operations at the University of Illinois. Please describe how you believe your roles in student union auxiliary management prepare you to be NHED's next Vice President of Finance and Administration.
So it's you have to eliminate that academic piece. I don't have a PhD, and I'm not credible telling a department in the academics how to run. So, but I am credible in the aspects of financial management, how to piece together these disparate funding sources into a cohesive budget, both at the University of Illinois and Metropolitan Community Colleges. It's pretty straightforward. It's all auxiliary funds. Now at Iowa, we have significant GEF, general education funds, student fee funds, and then some other state funds, foundation distributions. We have a few other funds that have given me an experience on how to piece together a financial report. Is there any accounting piece of that too?
No, it's just describe your roles in student union auxiliary management, how they prepare you to be NHED's next Vice President of Finance and Administration.
And then the personnel aspect of academic administration, as far as this is people's jobs in their lives. This is not just an hourly job at McDonald's, and how what you do does impact these professionals. So it's not particularly good answer right now.
It appears as though at the University of Iowa City, the areas outside of the student union that are responsible for finance and operations, grants, contracts, accounting, and facility management. Please provide specific examples of how your previous roles in auxiliary services have prepared you for the responsibilities assigned to the Vice President of Finance and Administration to the Northeast Higher Education District. It appears as though at the University of Iowa City, there are areas outside of the student union that are responsible for finance and operations. There are areas outside.
So, okay, I can tell you a little bit about the structure then, and how that I apply to that, and how that applies to here.
Yes.
So the University of Iowa has an operating budget of $3.2 billion. Approximately half of that is the hospital. There's a teaching hospital involved that has 11,000 employees. So if you take about half of that away, that leaves you with the university, the 28,000 students that are there for non-MD degrees. And so there are, within that, probably, I'm going to guess, 20, maybe 30 budget officers. I'm one of those budget officers. Some of them are strictly, College of Arts and Sciences is huge, it's the largest department on campus, and some of them are relatively small. The Iowa Memorial Union, Dean Student's Office is probably 4th or 5th largest in that group. areas are dealing greatly with payroll, academic load, and teaching. We're dealing with auxiliary funds, and student life funds. And so, again, that puts together this financial management piece and this accounting, this accurate representative of this financial piece through accurate accounting to bring it to the financial management piece of the organization. The administrative piece is I've worked with so many full-time and part-time staff through the different years on how to manage and balance an organization. I think that applies to this also. I think I answered that question. But I think what the question's getting at is how many different organizations there are in campus that create their own budgets and everything. There are probably 30. It sounded like the previous question, actually.
Yeah, it does. There's
Okay, I'll ask. We currently have a hands-on finance person in this position. Are you a manager with this type of work pattern, and what is your management style?
So some of you have heard this already, but I manage through relationship building. And I much prefer to show up in someone's office and talk with them over a phone call. I much prefer a phone call over an email. You can't tell tone or intonation. You can't build a relationship over email. Now, having said that, due to the wide disbursement of all these campuses, email is absolutely essential. But I think the phone call is really important too. So the short answer is relationship builder. And I do have hands-on experience working, well, not an accountant, but I know how to perform and use financial statements. I do not have experience doing a lot of the hands-on as far as everybody that works for me, but I do have a good grasp on office work. I've had to, during this AFSCME strike, I've made up hotel rooms before, so I'm not afraid of doing the work, but at a different level, I may need a mentor to go through and show me that, no, this is what you're expecting, but this is how we do it. So I won't be one to come in and dictate how it's done, because it may not be the best way to get it done.
Did you have any more questions?
Just one person.
There's only one brave enough to know.
It's anonymous. You can go on.
You know, right?
Okay. Could you please explain how you would go about budgeting for an organization with five separate different colleges that are all funded from one central pool of money?
I think to start, I wouldn't change a thing from what I've done before, so I can see the process and how people are comfortable or not with what the process currently is. It might be a modified incremental budgeting process, or you might go all the way to a zero-based process where you start from a blank slate, you build your department based on a narrative of what you do or your department's expectations, or anywhere in between that. So I think that for me to come in and say, I would change this, I wouldn't. I can tell you my favorite, and I think the best way to build a budget is through that zero-based process, and you really need to work closely with people to work with them on getting their ideas onto a piece of paper, and what are they trying to articulate, what is their mission, and can we achieve that mission through this narrative. And then once you're comfortable with this narrative, then we try to tie numbers to that narrative, and eventually a spreadsheet, and eventually we build a budget out of it. It means a lot of travel and spending time on campus, working with each individual person that holds a stake in the budget on how we do this. Most people like to say, you get a 2% increase, you just increase 2% of everything, sign off on it, it's done. It's not effective. It doesn't help you identify areas that more, or that could perhaps be cut, or cut completely, so.
Is that your practice now?
Yes, is it is. The academic departments don't do that,
Okay.
just the administrative.
Okay, this next one says it's a two-part question. Please share with the group what you know about our district facilities and, as the student union's director of financial management and auxiliary services, what specific experience do you have in dealing with infrastructure, capital project planning, and management? That's the first part.
Okay, let's just take that question.
Okay, let's just do that
Yes,
question.
you read that one for me.
All right. Please share with the group what you know about our district facilities and, as the student union's director of financial management and auxiliary services, what specific experience do you have in dealing with infrastructure, capital management planning, and management? Capital project planning and management, I'm sorry.
So I can just bring forth the example from the Iowa Memorial Union. 2008, the Iowa River flooded, and it knocked 36 buildings completely offline for anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And then reoccupation was slow, and then we had to work with FEMA, who, thanks to everybody watching this, paid for 90% of the repairs. So the infrastructure in place during that flood is what we got. We got that physical plant, the infrastructure, meaning any sort of mechanical, electrical, physical. We have phone booths. We installed phone booths in that building, and we did that all through a FEMA management and a flood management committee. So this 38-member committee would approve everything. This was not just our building, but it was multiple buildings across campus. So that's capital project management experience I had. I haven't visited any of your campuses except for this one. And there appears to be there is a huge building project going on here. So I don't know what deferred maintenance is here. In Iowa, we have to get a consultant, pay someone to detail our deferred maintenance. And then that goes to the Board of Regents for approval, and they appropriate funds for what they've approved. So that's how we go through deferred maintenance. I think that's
Capital project planning and management. And what was your role in the kind of the restructuring after the flood?
determine the needs and to get them know when we want to. We couldn't even, at our expense, install extra fiber on any floor that's affected by the flood because it wasn't there in 2008. It had to be renovated, restored to the way it was new in 2008. So we want data, fiber, wireless across campus, and a building impacted before then could not be improved, not even at the university's expense. And that was in 2008, and we still have not received the FEMA audit on that.
Second part of this question. Please describe your understanding of the capital project planning process within Minnesota State standards, and the role of the system office in the execution of capital project planning and execution. So, do you have any understanding of the Minnesota State?
Well, I didn't until I talked to Vice Chancellor Laura King today. And the capital projects, be they new projects or deferred maintenance projects, any capital project is escalated through the president to Minnesota State Higher Education. And then that is somehow prioritized and funded at that level. Debt service is covered at that level. 5/6 of the debt service for that project that is covered at the state level, the district level, and the local level is 1/6. Did I get that right?
Depending on the type of funding we use.
Okay. So until I came here, that was one of the questions I had for the search committee. How does this capital projects work here? And I really didn't, and I sort of understand. It's not controlled. We have a voice at the table, but we don't control our own destiny. So. Is that correct?
Yep.
Please share with the group your understanding of Minnesota State's fund balance requirements and your specific responsibility in working towards meeting the college's overall budgetary fund balance requirements. You need to be specific.
Well, okay, so that it's my understanding that that is a budget requirement to contribute to that fund balance, and then look to maintain a level of between 5 to 7% of your revenue. And that was again a question that the Vice Chancellor and I went through today. And there are schools that have less than that, schools are red flag schools, and then schools that have 70% of their annual revenue in a fund balance. And I assume that there's ways that they get those schools to spend that down. I think that it's probably something the legislator doesn't want to see as a high fund balance. They're financing it or not financing the colleges. So that is my understanding. It's
Yep,
supposed to be a
you're right.
budget item. It should be a budget item. We should not be running operations expenses. What's on the bottom line is a contribution to the future of the organization. You've worked here, you've deteriorated, you should be paying for the future. So it should be a budget item piece, and it should be included in every budget. How do you get that where? That's tough when there's no money. So I didn't answer the question because there's no way to say you have to get to it. It should be a budget item. It should be a priority budget item to take care of the future.
I think we've talked about this one, but I'll mention it again. There has been a recent realignment in the NHED business services model. Please share with us your understanding of where that is and, more importantly, your vision for a model that is both sustainable for the employees, sustainable for the organization, and serves the students of our multi-campus structure.
So the first part is what is my impression of where it is now? It's
So if you have an understanding, that was kind of the second,
Yeah,
first
so-
part of it, if you have an understanding of it, but.
this is, yeah, I believe so. This would be similar to my description of what we've done at Iowa as far as the insurance services and bringing all the transactional work, not just business services, but whatever it is, into one body. Now, I should clarify that there's no building that houses all these people. It's the department admin that's doing it now may be sitting in that same spot that they sat in for the last 20 years, but it's a centralized service. And that's my impression that that's sort of the way it is now. I believe there's been shrink in that department. I think it's gotten smaller. There might have been a good part of 20 maybe in that working there. I think it's down to 10 now. And there might be or it is still in a state of learning and change, and perhaps not completely bridge the gap of what they want it to be, or the vision of what they want it to be. That's my understanding.
How would you provide budget guidance and support for technical programming?
Budget guidance and support for technical programming. I'll go right back to that budget process. And how does your program fit? How does it fit with our mission and what we need to deliver to students? And it's just a short narrative. Just how does it fit? And if you can articulate that, then we can start adding numbers to that. That might be teach 100 electricians how to climb a telephone pole every year. It takes 5 hours each one, so I need someone there instructing on how to do that. And And then, once that's in a narrative form, you can kind of do a math and come up with a dollar amount that per hour, this is what it's going to cost. And the faculty member equals this. And so we start out very, very high level, and it's very, it's a change. People are not necessarily receptive to this kind of high-level discussion of what value does their department or this program have. But we start off that way, and then we work into the numbers. So, actually slide change here.
There's a slide down, huh?
Okay. Might have to do gross tonnage too.
The leadership on the NHED campuses each represent unique and diverse cultures and each with unique priorities and numerous interests. Particularly important during this time of regional academic planning, please describe your experience in navigating these relationships with academic deans and other administrators while evaluating and recommending budget priorities as well as bringing together separately accredited institutions.
There's a lot to that question.
There
So,
is.
my question coming here, and a couple of you I've heard this a couple of times, some of you will hear it the third time here, is how in this era of declining enrollments, declining populations in high school, tuition freezes, declining state funds, how do we, and frozen fee funds also, or fees, student fees, how do we continue to deliver to these 5 communities what we're doing now? And then the next question is what we're doing now appropriate for 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 25? How do we maintain that level of outreach? And that's a strategic plan that has to come up from a carefully thought out process, and I'm not one to dictate what that is. It has to take into account all the constituents, all the stakeholders, including the students and community leaders. So that is part of the question.
Also about navigating relationships with academic deans and other administrators while evaluating and recommending budget priorities.
That's a face-to-face conversation. Again, it's a lot of travel involved, but it means so much more to me, and I hope it does to the people I meet with, to show up in our office. I did that in Kansas City when we had these 5 different campuses, and just, it's building that relationship of mutual trust on. And yes, you can count on me to help you out through this, but I can count on you to be blunt and honest, to tell me that you may buy in, but the faculty in the campus, how do we do that? So it's the relationships.
So the colleges are, their question is asking for you to describe your understanding of Minnesota State's Next Gen project. And I don't know if you have an understanding of that or knowledge of that. The Next Gen project is moving forward with the new student database system for all of the colleges.
Okay.
So that's what the project is. So with that, and NHED's regional academic planning and student success initiatives, what would you see, how can you see your role in those initiatives as the district's Vice President of Finance and Administration?
We're essentially talking a data warehouse, are we?
It's the CRM, the student system, so all of the student enrollment and characteristics are put in there. It's all the finance.
It's not the marketplace
That's not
procurement
what we're
system
talking
that
about.
we
No.
talked about.
Okay.
It's kind of our whole student database. So all of
So it's our
So it's
entry
something-
system to
Yeah.
a replicated database.
Okay,
Okay, so,
that's gonna be
and it's
universal.
very costly, and I mean, the transition to doing a new student database system, there's a lot of levels to that as far as consistency and what's that gonna look like, and, because it's gonna be different than our existing, basically homegrown system. So it's gonna be costly.
Is it-
So there's gonna be a momentum and a move and a shift towards that.
Is there applications in place to transfer all that? Is it
There
a hand
will,
in?
hopefully there will be.
So,
So
when
as-
you're in a hole, it's best to stop digging, so I'm just gonna say, I don't know enough about it to talk about it, otherwise.
So these are some large initiatives that the district colleges are facing. The Next Gen project, regional academic learning, student success initiatives. So how do you see yourself in the role of vice president of finance and administration, serving in those areas?
It's certainly being realistic and transparent about what the finances are, and also producing appropriate accounting and financial reports that represent that. So transparency and realistic projections are probably the most important thing that I can offer to a group or groups like that what they're working on. I think that's the type of decision where the decision is made in the room, and then everybody's in agreement when they leave, regardless of how heated the discussion in the room may have been, because there's plenty of opportunity in each one of those areas to throw other people on the bus if you don't like their decisions. So that's where you really have to collaborate with your work peers. Except for the next chapter, I'm not sure what I'm talking about first.
Brad, can you talk about the strengths or challenges that you will be bringing to this position?
Start with some of the challenges. Up until now, the question here, and until I talked to the Vice Chancellor, how do capital projects work here? How does the funding of capital projects work here? They take care of them. They're all the bonds are run through that organization. And the payment process sounds kind of nice. The campus only pays a fraction of that. So getting used to and working through that the first couple of times will certainly be a challenge. Institutional knowledge will be a real challenge, especially in light of the position resides on this campus, correct? So maybe perhaps undue influence from this campus on what institutional knowledge is for the district, and not neglecting the other four campuses, 5 locations. So that would be definitely be a challenge. I think finding a mentor is absolutely essential. Someone that can help me navigate some of these challenges, be it at the state level or at each campus level or district level. So that would be some of the biggest challenges.
Challenges and strengths.
Relationship building is one of my strengths. Employees satisfaction, getting satisfaction out of work, working with them when they are dissatisfied on how to maybe modify their tasks or their hours or something along that line to make their job more satisfying. It could be as simple as, well, yeah, work at 8:30 since you have to drop kids off at school. I don't care. Things like that. So that's my biggest thing.
Last question I have on here is, why the Iron Range? What are your ties and what do you know about it?
Well, just mostly what I've read on the website and fishing when I was way younger than I am now. When I drove up here yesterday, there's some sort of slogan, Minnesota's home of 10,000 lakes or something. I don't think that's true. I think I passed 10,000 just on I-35. So I do know there's an abundant outdoor and good quality of life here. I'd like to say it's Iowa with trees. And both of us love winter sports in and out. So I know that about the area. The area is rural. I didn't realize it was as rural as it is. There's a lot of gaps between communities driving up here, unless they're hidden behind the trees. So that's kind of my knowledge of the region. The appeal, again, why, is this 5-district dynamic, or sorry, 5-campus dynamic of a district that I've worked with before. And it's poses a lot of challenges, but there can be a lot of rewards. Seeing that aha moment is something that's really
I don't have any other questions. Does anybody else?
great.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Thank you for coming. Well, I'm excited about visiting here. It's a very different experience. I think you're going through a lot of change. Some of it might be easy, and some of it is or will be difficult. So whether I'm the one that you choose to be here or not, good luck with it. I think you're going in the right direction. So,
Thank you. We go streaming. The session will probably close within a couple minutes, and I think it'll be still accessible on NHED's website, but perhaps a little more information on that. I'm not sure. Thanks. So the next gen is next gen. So right now
you sound like a threat.
So right now the student is
Mary's. I just got past lunches. Yeah, it's well, they don't have food service that day, and they definitely don't have food service that could support that big of a crew, but there's not that much in town that does simple catering like that. No, so, and Mary's is always good. I'm biased, I go there all the time. So yeah, it'll just be a variety, kind of what we did that first time, because there was like 4 or 5 different things. Thanks for coming. It is. Have a good one.
But it's for this Minnesota State system.
It is one of the sources.
I was really warm.
So it's like the HR system.
Screaming at one point. I was watching.
It's very confusing. I don't know. I don't know what it is. You have a plan.
So it's more just depending on the times.
Yeah. It's another one that's going to be angst the most people.
Yeah, me too. Some people are just coming to us. Actually, she was just straight entry level. What's that?
Right.
Navigation of your system.
Street safety.
Yeah.
The student did that also.
When they apply, there's other pieces that
Scared of this question or something. I was like,
So if someone came to you and just gave you a box and said, here's what you're going to use, and getting them at the store,
Yes,
especially for current students.
And we do have